You've seen them at family gatherings. The one whose achievements get recited like scripture. The one who can do no wrong. Who gets the best room, the spotlight, the pride. And maybe you were that child. Or maybe you were the one standing next to them, invisible. Either way, this is a story about a title that looks like a gift and operates like a cage. Because here's what almost nobody understands about the golden child. The pedestal isn't a privilege, it's a position. And every position in a family system comes with a price. The child on the pedestal pays in a currency you can't see from the outside. Their worth was never theirs. It was rented. And the invoice comes due in ways that only reveal themselves decades later, in therapy offices and silent rooms, when the applause finally stops. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth. The golden child isn't chosen because they're special. They're chosen because they're useful. In the psychology of family systems, the golden child serves the family's story. The family needs a living proof that everything is fine, that they did something right, that the dysfunction doesn't exist, and the golden child is that proof. Their grades, their trophies, their achievements become the family's evidence of success. Every win gets celebrated loudly, every failure gets hidden quietly, and the child learns very early that their job is not to be real. Their job is to perform. This is where it gets heavy. The golden child is loved conditionally, and they feel it more than anyone. The love they receive is not for who they are, it's for what they produce. A grade, a trophy, a performance. And when the production stops, the love stops with it. There's a moment every golden child remembers. The moment they came home with something less than perfect, a B instead of an A loss instead of a win. And they watched the family's face change. The warmth flickered, the pride dimmed, and in that instant, they learned the arithmetic of their own worth. I am valued exactly as much as I perform. Psychologists call this conditional regard, and it does something specific to the brain. A child raised on conditional love doesn't develop a stable sense of self. They develop a sense of worth that's welded to output. Their internal question is never, "Who am I?" It's, "What have I done lately?" And that question never stops. It follows them into adulthood, into careers, into relationships. The golden child grows up to be the person who can't rest, who can't enjoy a moment of peace, because somewhere inside them is a terrified child holding a report card, waiting for the family's verdict. Here's the part nobody talks about. The golden child often becomes the caregiver of the family, emotionally and sometimes literally, because the golden child is expected to be the strong one, the successful one, the one who never needs anything. Their own needs get archived, their own pain gets minimized, and they absorb the family's problems silently because admitting they're struggling would crack the story they were built to hold. So they carry everyone else's weight and pretend their own doesn't exist. They become experts at being fine, masters of the performance, and beneath it, starving. Now, the siblings. This is the part that's rarely said out loud. The golden child isn't just shaped by the pedestal, they're also isolated by it. Every sibling in the system feels the comparison. And the resentment doesn't always go to the parents. A lot of it lands on the golden child. They get cast as the favorite, the teacher's pet, the one who can do no wrong. And that casting makes genuine sibling connection nearly impossible. The golden child often ends up profoundly lonely inside their own family, too different to fit in, too guarded to be real, too busy performing to just be a brother or a sister. Here's the deepest trap, and it's worth sitting with. The golden child's identity gets built on a foundation they didn't choose. And when that foundation shifts, when the achievements stop being enough, when the parent's pride turns elsewhere, when real life stops cooperating with the story, the whole structure threatens to collapse. Because if the gold was never theirs, if the worth was always rented, then what's left when the gold tarnishes? This is why so many golden children, deep into adulthood, report a strange emptiness. They won everything. They achieved everything. And they still feel like they're pretending. There's an irony that runs through all of this. The golden child is given the most praise and receives the least permission. Permission to fail, permission to rest, permission to be average, permission to have needs. The family that elevates them also cages them. And the child who seemed to have everything was, in many ways, the one allowed to have the least. Not the least stuff, the least freedom, the least privacy of feeling, the least right to their own life. The good news, and there is good news, is that this is a story with a second act. The golden child can recover their self-worth, but it requires unlearning the arithmetic. It requires the terrifying work of discovering who they are without the achievements. Who am I when no one is watching? Who am I when I'm not performing? What do I want that has nothing to do with the family's story? Those questions feel like betrayal at first, like stepping off a pedestal into a void. But the void, it turns out, is where real identity gets built. The gold was never the point. The person underneath was. And here's the reframe that changes everything. The golden child was never the problem. They were the solution the family needed, the living proof that held the story together. They performed because the system demanded it. They achieved because love was gated behind it. They carried the family's pride so the family wouldn't have to carry its pain. That wasn't weakness. That was survival. And like every survival skill, it was built by a child who didn't have a choice. If you were the golden child, hear this clearly. You don't have to earn your place anymore. The applause was never the proof of your worth. It was the substitute for it. Real worth doesn't need a trophy. It doesn't need a witness. It just needs to be allowed to exist. And you were never allowed to be anything less than perfect, which means you were never really allowed to be yourself. The golden child's real inheritance isn't the achievements, it's the permission to finally be ordinary, and to discover, at last, that ordinary was always enough. That who you are without the performance was always the actual gold, and no one can rent that from you again. If this met the golden child in you, or the one standing beside them, subscribe to Mind to Act for more psychology that decodes the hidden rules of families and the people they shape.